welcome to episode 57 of the Narrative Wargamer Podcast. I am Tony Rhodes, and tonight I'm joined once again by Mr. Daniel Foley.
Hello.
And tonight I'm also joined by Jonathan Sharpe.
Good evening.
And by Mr. Darryn Daggers himself.
Hello.
So, welcome everyone to the show. It's nice to have everybody on. We've got, a bit of a full lineup tonight with all four of us here. For those who are perhaps newer to the show on YouTube, you may not have heard the voices of Jonathan or Darryn before, but if you are familiar with the show, they have been repeat guests in the past, and tonight is going to be a fun episode because it is our first YouTube debut for the Fun Facts episodes.
Yay!
So, for those of you who are not familiar to this format, and this is the first time hearing a Fun Facts episode, you are in for a treat. These have become somewhat a bit of a hallmark of the Narrative Wargamer Podcast, and are something that we here on the show really, really enjoy doing.
To the point I actually hold Tony's family hostage if he doesn't let me join in, so there you go.
I mean, you do literally hold up the recording schedule because you request to be on every one of these shows if possible.
Yeah. Yep.
So, for those who are not familiar with it, basically the Fun Facts episodes are a quiz. It's a lore quiz, but the way that we do it is that it's based on a particular source material, something new, relevant usually to what's been coming out in recent releases. In this case, we're looking at the lore in the Tyrannic War Crusade book. So basically everything that's been going on with the events of the 4th Tyrannic War, as we now know it here in 10th edition. But what we do is I have created a series of questions with multiple choice answers, only one of which is true and the others are false. And each of our guests gets to vote and pick on which one they think is the correct answer and which ones are false. And for every correct answer, they get a point. And at the end of the night, we end up with an arbitrary score for who managed to guess their fake 40k facts from their real 40k facts the most.
It's awesome. And you must play along at home. Please play along at home. It's worth not that you'll win anything, but yeah, play.
You win good times, memories, and either lots of biomass or the right to live another day, depending on which side of the war you're on.
Exactly.
So a little introduction then for those of our viewers, particularly I would say on YouTube, who have yet to meet Jonathan or Darryn. We know, Daniel, you've been on a couple of the episodes now on YouTube, and but just for those who this might be their first episode, Daniel, tell us a little bit about Garage Hobbit and everything that you do.
You pronounced it correctly this time. So yeah, Garage Hobbit is my Instagram tag thing. I don't know what they call it. I'm not down with the kids. And I play 40k, lots of 40k. I do lots of painting. And this week, I am mainly working on my Leviathan box set. Ooh.
Topical. And Sharpe, how about yourself?
I'm a 40k player. I've got a number of armies. I came back after a long time during 8th edition. So I'm kind of along for a ride. I pretty much split my 40k time between hobby and playing the games when I get a chance to. I've played about 6 games of 10th edition now, mainly with my Eldar or my Chaos Demons, while I wait for some of the codexes to arrive for my other armies. But I'm enjoying it at the minute.
Excellent. And it'll be on screen for people watching the video on YouTube, but where can people find you on Instagram and so on?
Oh, you do this to me every time. It's a bit like trying to remember your own phone number, isn't it? Right. I think it's j.sharpe with an E 0608. And then that's mine and my wife's anniversary. Yeah, it's for anybody who wants to know why it's those digits. It's so I can easily remember the most important day of the year.
It's a good way of doing it. Put it in something you use every day, and then you'll never forget.
Yep.
But yeah, so I say that will that'll be on screen for people watching on YouTube, but also will be in the description below for people listening.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only place I exist as a 40k player, and it's pretty much a 40k account where I put up the stuff that I paint and pictures of games that I've played.
Excellent. And then Darryn, you say you've been on the show before. I got the chance to first meet you at one of the Crucible of War events that I was running. I mean, that would have been early last year now, I think, when I first ran that and met you. But yeah, you do some excellent stuff with Bad Moon Orcs, don't you?
I do, yeah, thanks. So my Instagram's Orc Daggers, but it's daggers with AZ at the end, so it sounds a bit more orky. It's just mostly kit bashing orcs. I have played quite a lot of 10th edition, so I document some of that on there as well. And sometimes post like Warhammer tattoos, because that's what I do for a living, so post some of them up sometimes as well on there.
Yeah, they look great, the ones that I've seen you do. And we might possibly have you on again in the near future at some point to talk about an all-orc 40k event that you went to recently.
Oh yeah, Warcon at Element Games. It was great. Just orcs v orcs all weekend.
I'm hoping to get the guy who ran that on the show as well. I've been speaking to him, and hopefully it's a thing we're going to make happen soon, so we can get both you and the Pale Orc on the show in the near future to talk about that, because it sounds like a really fun and interesting event.
Oh yeah, it really was great. Nice little like orky themes to the games and stuff as well, and everyone's armies were beautiful. So I won't say too much, so I don't want to spoil it for future episodes. But yeah, it was great.
So yeah, listeners can look forward to that sometime soon, hopefully. But yeah, for tonight then, because we're going into our first Fun Facts episode from our sort of new format for the show, we don't have any preamble to go through. We're not really doing a whole catch-up on like hobby progress and everything else or games played, because we'll keep our format as a little shorter now, so we're more like, somewhere in the 60 to 90 minutes bracket, depending on what we're talking about. But that does mean that, Daniel, we can get straight into it. We can get straight into our hilarious lore questions.
Yeah, I've got my lucky pants on. We're all good to go. Come on.
So just quickly for people who perhaps this is the first time listening to one of these, we have a couple of rounds, usually around each of a section of the narrative in the book that we're doing this from. So this being the Tyrannic War Crusade book. Our first section, round one, is simply called A Darkness in the West. And our opening quote is, "It began in absence and in silence." So this is all about the fact that obviously the new large Hive Fleet tendrils that have now appeared in the Segmentum Pacificus over on the western front of the Milky Way galaxy, which is basically somewhere that the Tyranids have not been seen or encountered previously, which is why the Imperium has been caught very much back-footed by all of this. And that sort of like sets the scene at the start of the book and the start of the lore for it. It is worth noting that one of the things that they've made a point of with the Fourth Tyrannic War is that it isn't actually just one hive tendril that's invading, it's actually two, which is why it's such a large and significant threat. So whereas before we've had like Hive Fleet Behemoth and Hive Fleet Kraken in the first and second wars, and then Leviathan in the third, those have all been like three separate tendrils. So in the Fourth Tyrannic War, the Imperium is actually facing down two full new tendrils. Now, from a gameplay perspective, as it were, these are also Hive Fleet Leviathan, so we don't have a new classification of like Hive Fleet that's the new big bad, but both those tendrils have been given a name. So we have Hive Tendrils Nautilon and Hive Tendril Promethor, for anyone interested.
Well done on that pronunciation, Tony.
Oh, there's going to be a whole bunch of interesting pronunciations throughout this tonight. So, to ease us in then, and say to get an idea for the sort of quiz questions, Our first question of round 1, Darkness in the West. Across the Segmentum Pacificus, growing numbers of deep void servitor-satellites and astropathic beacons ceased transmitting data and winked out one after another. However, how did one of the earliest signs of the true nature of the threat first reveal itself within the Morpheum Sector Command Station? Was it A, Genestealer Vanguard organisms had infiltrated the station and slaughtered all those aboard? Was it B, that High Astropath Gideoff received a flood of delayed astropathic distress calls, overloading his mind and manifesting as a psychic mass of tendrils, talons, and screaming faces? Or was it C, a Genestealer cult uprising overthrew the command station, resulting in a sub-sector-wide conflict between loyalist Imperial forces as they were misdirected by the cult in control of the command center?
Ooh, they are all very possible.
Yes, interesting.
I think if I was a Tyrannid, let me put my mind into Tyrannid. Oh, that was me being a lector.
It's dangerous. Don't do that. We know from in-law it is dangerous to put your mind into the hive mind.
It is true. Well, do the others want to go first, or I have a feeling I know which one I want to go for.
I think I'm going to go for B because of an overload of scary faces. Sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, B definitely sounded like the most 40k thing ever, didn't it? But I will just to keep it interesting. I think I'm going to go for C.
Oh, well, that's good because I was going to go for it. Was A the Genestealers?
A was the Genestealers.
Yeah. I'm going with the Genestealers. Classic Tyrannid tactics. Genestealers. Oh, that's my Genestealer young girl noise.
Well, I am glad this is how we've started out because this is our first Fun Facts episode where we've had 3 guests picking answers, and funnily enough, you've all gone for options A, B, and C respectively. So that's nice that all 3 options obviously seem feasible, and you've all got a genuine reasons for believing each of them, and hopefully the listeners will appreciate the fact that 2 of these answers obviously are false. I've made these up, and I've tried to make them as law appropriate and believable as possible, which quite often means coming up with something ridiculous, because as we know, the real thing is usually pretty ridiculous. So it was...
I'm a little disappointed, Tony, that there wasn't like Genestealers wearing tap shoes or something like that did a dance number on a space station and everyone went, that's a bit strange, maybe we should investigate that. But, I know it's your quiz.
Like at the ending of Spaceballs.
Yeah. Hello, my baby. Hello. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it's tempting with some answers to be like, here's an obviously fake and incorrect answer, and then like 2 that are debatable. But I like where I can creating like a full list of believable options, so it's genuinely really hard to decide. And I can tell you that for this first question, our first point goes to Darryn with his flood of scary faces.
Oh.
It was indeed High Astropath Gideoff receiving a flood of delayed astropathic distress calls, overloading his mind and manifesting as a psychic mass of tendrils, talons, and screaming faces.
That's why they should use call centers.
Well, it didn't end there, because then the rampaging creature that was the High Astropath had then butchered its way through several other astropaths and Minotauran personnel before it was finally put down.
Nice.
So it was literally just screaming and raging and rampaging through the station. Awesome. Right. So, question 2. In the Byroth subsector, what unexplained phenomenon was later revealed to be the result of an approaching hive fleet? So was it A, the light of the Astronomicon being obscured and no longer visible to navigators in the subsector? B, an Aldari craft world and accompanying fleet mysteriously passing through Imperial space for seemingly no reason? Or C, a sudden and unexpected ending of hostilities by an Orc war?
So I'm going to use logic here in 40k, right? So here's my logic. The Astronomicon is facing the wrong way for it to be blotted out by a Tyrannid fleet going the other way. It would be a silhouette, not the other way around. Ah, you see what I did there? Physics with my made-up fictional universe. And then, so it's either between the Eldar going, oh, nothing to see here, or the Orcs, in my mind. I don't know. Do the others want to pitch in?
I mean, I just hear Eldar and I'm going to go for that one. Going to go with my homies.
I think I'll have to do the same thing then.
Just
I think I'll have to go with my homies and choose the Orcs.
Yeah, I think nothing's stranger than Orcs stopping fighting, so I'm going to go for that.
That is true. That is true.
That would be alarm bells.
Yes.
What do you mean the Orcs have stopped fighting?
So is that 2 votes for C and 1 Aldari homie vote for the Craftworlders?
Yeah, I'm going for C.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going for C as well.
Sticking with B.
Sticking with B.
Yep.
Well, I can tell you that it was indeed very strange for Orcs to suddenly stop fighting. C is the correct answer. A sudden, unexpected ending of hostilities by an Orc war. This was because the Byrov subsector was soon after overrun by the Tyranids that had devoured the Greenskins.
Nice.
But those Octarius boys are looking back. Okay, wimps.
Their cream of mushroom soup.
Yeah, basically they stopped off at the Greenskin buffet on their way to the rest of the Byrov subsector.
Nice.
Question 3. With the discovery of Hive Tendrils, Nautilon and Promophor arriving in the Galactic Quest, how did word of the new threat eventually reach Holy Terror itself? Was it A, Aldari emissaries appeared within Terra's orbit to warn humanity of the threat? B, a lone frigate-class ship braved breaking protocol and attempted to land directly in the Imperial Palace? Or C, the infamous former Inquisitor Cryptman risked capture and execution in order to forewarn the High Lords of the threat he had predicted was arriving in the Segmentum Pacificus?
Ooh.
I think Cryptman's too obvious. That would be like, I imagine if Cryptman turned up, they'd be like, "Ah, we're not listening to you," and they'll blow him up before we even get to the surface of the planet he was trying to protect. So
yeah, not necessarily known for their forgiving nature. The Imperium, are they?
No.
I'm leaning towards the frigate myself.
I'm going to support your homeboys. I'm going to go Eldar.
Ooh. Yeah,
I'm going to go for B because I think B does sound.
Yep.
Like the one I'd go for.
I'll go for B as well.
So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you that Darryn is doing really well. He is correct. It is B. It is the lone frigate. So far, Darryn is leading away, as it were, with this. All 3 questions right so far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The word was brought to Holy Terror by a lone frigate which braved breaking protocol and ignoring the shipping lanes to land in the Imperial Palace. So question 4 is, the ship known as the Pinion ignored the established space lanes and headed straight for the palace. After being challenged by 20 plus orbital defense platforms and battleships, how did the Pinion avoid immediate destruction and arrive safely at the palace? Was it A, by inexplicably transmitting ident codes with such high clearance that all the personnel involved in processing them were then later lobotomized and repurposed as servitors in order to keep the codes secret?
why they have so many. That's why they have the 20 or defense platforms. Because the one when the ship goes past it, the next one can't remember what's happened because they've been bombarded.
Well, I think I already know which one Dan wants to be the correct answer. Was it, or alternatively, you've got two more options, Dan. Just wait. Or was it by B, employing previously undetected holofield technology never before seen on an Imperial vessel? Or was it C, by bearing inquisitorial sigils identifying it as a vessel of the Ordo Chronos, a branch of the Inquisition thought to have been destroyed thousands of years ago?
A, purely on the silliness of it. A.
Dear. What was B again, Tony?
So B is using undetected holotech technology never before seen in the Imperium.
Seems a bit too coincidental to me. So I think I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm going to go with C on this one. And I think it's they're using the inquisitorial seal.
I'm going to back Dan up actually and go with A because I like it. I want to see some lobotomies. It's an older code, but it checks out.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. Just fly casual.
You can't cross references like that. The universe will explode.
Like their minds after.
It's fine. We'll just lobotomize everyone that listens to this afterwards.
Yeah. That's funny. Why have I got no more subscribers? Oh, we lobotomized everyone who listens.
And you might get double the listens though, because
Warhammer Podcast.
Unfortunately, YouTube isn't keen on it if all my subscribers are bots. Well, I think it's fair to say that A is definitely the most ridiculous 40k answer to this question, which is why it is the correct answer to this question.
Of course it is.
Yeah, that is a thing
so
that actually happens. Yeah, that's a thing that happens in the lore in Tyrannic War. The fact that the Imperium keeps some of its secret high protocol security codes secret by lobotomizing any of its staff that are used to process the information.
So here's a question: who lobotomizes the lobotomizers?
Probably the lobotomized.
Do
We'll
they
get a
have,
servitor to do it.
Yeah, is there, and then it goes around in a big circle, so they can't remember who's.
It's fine. It's fine. There'll be an entire order of the Inquisition dedicated to this. It'll be the Ordo Lobotomo.
Or Ordo Lobotomo. Nobody knows about them because they've been lobotomized. I can't remember where they are.
And I hope
organisation ever.
Well done, brother. You've now progressed to rank 2 of the order. What is rank 2? Resetting to rank 1.
Carry on.
I think it'd be obvious to any of our new listeners or viewers now why it is that Dan wants to be on these shows.
Oh, they just make me laugh so much.
I'm glad they do. I get some lovely feedback and comments from people on these shows because they're really well received, and I'm so glad because they're so much fun to produce. So
I'm actually in tears.
Well, so following up then with this, we have question 5. What once the Pinion had landed in the palace grounds, and everyone who witnessed it had been lobotomized.
Remember where could they find it after they left it? Because I can't remember where they parked it. Sorry.
Once the pinion had landed in the palace grounds, who was it that disembarked from the vessel to bring word of the Tyranid threat to Trajan Valoris personally? Was it A, Lord Inquisitor Kyra Draxus, which is the Drake Lady Inquisitor from Psychic Awakening, the one who has the model?
I'm sorry, Tony. If you say nobody can remember, I will wet myself.
Well, your options are, as I say, A, Lord Inquisitor Kyra Draxus, B, a trio of the Eyes of the Emperor, ex-Custodes turned secret informants, or was it C, Cypher?
Okay, I'm gonna go really boring and serious now. It wasn't Cypher because he's just spent a whole book in the Black Library getting out of Terror. So that would be a bit daft if he just suddenly turns up again and goes, "Hey, you caught me." By the way, Nids. What was the other two? What were the other two?
Option A is Lord Inquisitor Kyra Draxus, which, as I say, is the Inquisitor from the Psychic Awakening series, the one with the Drake and the sanctified Shuriken catapult. Or B, a trio of Eyes of the Emperor, so the Custodes who have retired and gone off and become secret informants.
I'm going to go B because I feel like, again, I'm being really boring. She would be in the pariah sector, so that's the wrong place. So I'm going to go B. Anyone wanna come in on that?
So I think it's I'm going to go with A, and it was a shocking name drop from Games Workshop in a bid to sell a model.
I didn't think of that.
Remember your customers, Dan. Remember your customers.
I'm torn between A and B because both sound like they'd have like a really high code. I'll probably go with A because of the Psychic Awakening and the Hive Mind. And
I mean, it is worth noting that Kyra Draxus is a member of the Order Xenos, for anyone that wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I'm still going B.
Cool.
Sticking with A.
Two votes for Lord Inquisitor, I assume there, Darren?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Darren, this is the first question you've got wrong so far. It is, in fact, B.
Oh.
It is the trio of the Eyes of the Emperor. So, yeah, it's a bunch of Custodes using super secret Custodes code language that nobody's allowed to know except them.
Don't.
I like to think it's just a bunch of janitorial post-its, just like post-it notes.
Yeah.
So then finally, our last question of the first round, so this is question 6. With the threat of not one, but 2 new hive tendrils threatening the Imperium, Lord Solar Leontis himself began marshalling the forces of the Astra Militarum for the coming Tyrannic War. As part of his efforts to expedite the solar muster, he bargained, charmed, and threatened political figures into action, and once even had to do which of the following? Was it A, personally win an honour duel, B, win a game of regicide against a High Lord, or C, rename an entire planetary regiment to honour a political rival for their naming day celebration?
Oh, you've outdone yourself on this one, Tony. They all sound spot on. Oh man, I do not know.
I like the idea that he played a game of regicide. There's always a game of regicide going on in whatever book you read, isn't there?
Yeah, that's great.
Whenever they describe someone's quarters, there's always some Amasec somewhere and a regicide board. That's all you need to know that that's where they sleep.
40k Black Library bingo.
Yep.
And recaf.
Yeah.
So,
Or if you're a Cathias Kane man, Tanner. We do like a bit of Tanner.
Oh.
Bit of Tanner. I was going to say a Groxbun. That's another one you always get.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go for C. I think it sounds very like
Is that
somebody would really be like, well, like when they're like the ego of someone who's like quite high up and powerful will be like, well, I want something named after me. So.
Yeah, because is he I can't remember, and you guys might be able to tell me this. Is he a High Lord of Terror?
No, he's not a High
he's not,
Lord. He's a Lord.
He's a Lord Solar.
He's Lord Solar.
Lord Solar, which means he's in charge of the guard in the Sector Solar.
Yeah, in the Segmentum Solar, he's the head of the. Basically, he only answers to the High Lord, who is in charge of the Astra Militarum as a whole,
Right.
because his peers would be like Lord Pacificus, Lord Obscurus, Lord Nephilim, and Lord.
So I don't think he would have
Ultra.
the regicide one just sounds a bit too. I don't think he would have the clearance, which sounds really silly. But I'm going to go with the renaming of the regiment because I think that sounds very pompous and imperial.
So is that 2 votes for renaming the regiment from Darryn and Dan?
Yeah.
And what about Sharpe? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my regicide.
You go to regicide.
Yeah.
Well, I can say, Daniel, that you are right that I have outdone myself on this question because the correct answer is A, winning a personal honour duel.
Oh, well done, Tony.
Nice.
It was a good question.
Drawn in.
I just like the idea. I like the idea that the Imperium's fate is decided not through armies, not with tanks and space marines, but a little game of chess. Just a little game of chess. That'll do.
But you were right, Sharpe, in that I was like, what could I possibly do here to be like, what political manoeuvres and things could be involved to muster the guard? And I was like, I bet there's been some stuff that's been decided by games of regicide in the high ranks before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the duel was with a regicide board.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to go up with an idea that was like an alternative, but on par to a personal honour duel that wasn't just some other variety of duel. I was like, what could that be?
Or they just or it was a duel and they literally hit each other over the head with regicide boards until one. quite amusing.
Not quite that mad. However, that is the end of round 1. So that was sort of all the general accumulation of events leading up to the major invasion by the High Fleets. Round 2 is called Into the Maw. So this is basically now a selection of anecdotal events that occur out in the Segmentum Pacificus as the Tyranids are now basically just ransacking the place before the proper defences are rallied and, sent forth to try and defend the Imperium. So we've got a bunch of different horrible things happening in different places throughout the High Fleet's predations. So, question 7. In the Castelil system, new, previously unseen biovessels appeared in naval engagements. But what was a prominent feature of these new Tyranid bioships? Was it A, that they could emit bioelectrical magnetic impulses that could disable Imperial ships and their machine spirits? Was it B, that they were psychically charged biovessels boasting cerebral nodes as large as Imperial frigates, in a very big brain move by the hive mind? Or C, they possessed bioadaptive symbiotic capabilities, allowing them to separate or conjoin at will, forming larger single bioforms or scattering into shoals of smaller biovessels in moments?
That sounds nuts.
Yeah, I love the sound of that C.
Yes. C sounds awesome.
C, I want C. I don't know if I'm going C. We're all going C.
I'm going to go with B.
Oh.
I'm going to go with B because I feel like C's too good of an answer. That's probably Tony and his creative capabilities. I think it's going to be B because it's going to be a ship that's psychic with a big brain on it.
Is it?
So they can
Is B the
keep using that brain. That's on all the new models.
Yeah, I was going to say, is B the brain one? I think you're trying to draw us in on the fact that all the models have got brains in, and you're trying to draw us in there, and it's not that one. I'm going to stick with C. I'm having it. Mind you, I wouldn't listen to me because I'm hardly knocking this episode out the park as it stands. So,
I just be careful, Tony. If you have got if it isn't C, right? Just be careful. Black Library don't just suddenly. Oh, and there's this ship that can. Make sure you've got your writing. What is it? Copyright infringement or whatever they do for books. Not that I know any of those things, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I can copyright my own ideas of Games Workshop IP. But I mean, part of the reason why I love doing these shows is because I love coming up with these extra like false answers, because they give me some really clever ideas for what things could happen in the setting. Do you know what I mean? Between the factions and the races and everything. And some of those ideas could eventually translate into a tabletop, like stuff either through our own, narrative play, or who knows, might be a big brain move ahead of whatever models eventually come out. Maybe we'll see a symbiotic Tyrannid ship in Battlefleet Gothic in the near future. Who knows?
You heard it here first, guys. You heard it here first.
But I can tell you that so we've got Sharpe and Dan going for C with the symbiotic ships, and Darryn going for B with the big brain ships. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that it is in fact the big brain ships. Yeah. Games Workshop likes putting big brains on everything at the moment, including in the law. And I love the fact that Darren's side there decided, despite the fact that he got it right and got the point, because he didn't want it to be true.
Yeah, get some new ideas. Come on.
But yeah, basically, super big psychic ships or biovessels have been appearing in the naval engagements with the Imperial forces. These have been dubbed Mind Slayers, and these bioships have brought crippling paranoia, terrifying hallucinations, and smothering psychostatic that drove human naval crews mad. And then from these biovessels poured warrior organisms adapted for psychic combat. So basically, this ship doesn't bring lictors, it brings big brain lictors. It doesn't bring hormagaunts, it brings big brain hormagaunts.
Grim.
So watch out for Mind Slayers.
Not to be confused with Mind Flayers. Just throw that in there.
Well, I still think you should watch out for Mind Flayers as well, to be fair.
I mean, yeah, they're pretty nasty.
Question 8. The Witcher's Maw is a dense psychoactive nebula long studied by the Inquisition and Adeptus Mechanicus. When the research stations came under attack by Tyrannids, the nebula transformed into a nightmarishly whirling dust maelstrom. But what was rumoured to inhabit the nebula that was the source of this transformation? Was it A, enslavers, ensnaring the psycho-reactive properties of the nebula? B, a hidden and long-forgotten Votan ancestor core? Or C, a xenos species of sentient dustgeists that summoned malevolent warp entities?
So I really want it to be A, because enslavers are not used enough in 40k lore. And if you I'm going to go off on a lore tangent here. If you don't know what enslavers are, look them up. They're pretty awesome. They are like the 40k equivalent of the if your planet has an enslaver, the whole planet is doomed. They leech their way into psychers and control them, and then basically then what happens is a big they breach through the warp. They're like warp entities that are not chaos worshipping things. They're like a Xenos creature, and they're really horrible. Look them up if you haven't looked them up. Tangent over. I wish it was them, but more likely I'm going to go with GW needs to flog more Space Dwarves. Space Dwarves. Ran over.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I'm going to go for B.
I mean, the Votan one does sound feasible, but seeing as everybody else is going for it, and I desperately need to catch up some points, I'm not going to go for that one. I'm going to go for C.
You're going to go for C, Sharpie.
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah.
I love that logic. It's good logic.
The Xenos priest of dust ghosts that are chaos worshippers.
And I'm going to kit bash that army starting next week.
Well, you can use this source book as some inspiration because it's true.
Yeah!
It is the
really
Xenos species of sentient dust geists that summoned malevolent warp entities.
Ah, cool.
But yes, Dan, I'm glad I piqued your interest with the Enslavers because I thought, this is a perfect place for them to possibly exist since it's talking about warp entities but not necessarily demons, and the fact that they are actually using a psychoactive nebula, so obviously the Enslavers can manipulate that.
They are horrifying. If you read up on the sort of like lore of them, they are absolutely horrifying. And if one ever got to Earth, game over. It's just
And on that note, if you are looking up interesting creatures within like the 40k wider bestiaries, look up the Kachan barking toad. That is also another hilarious one.
Yeah, they're good.
But moving on. Question 9. In the Kepagan system, a horde of mutant orcs prepared their irradiated fleet of orc rocks to launch a war into the neighbouring Imperial system when they were attacked by the Tyrannids. Delighted to find an excellent fight on their very doorstep, they abandoned their invasion plans and hurled themselves at the Tyrannids instead. But what was the name of their mutant war boss? Was it A, War Boss Osgog, the monster boss of Glowing Rock? Was it B, Uruk Badbones, the Scar Boss? Or was it C, War Boss Snaggor Greentooth, the Weird Claw?
I just like the idea of glowing rock because they're radioactive orcs. Because they glow. That's why they're mutated. They glow in the dark. I'm going with that one.
I love Dan's approach. Is vote for which one he wants to be true, not necessarily which one he thinks is true.
And 9 times out of 10, I'm right.
What was the name of the last one?
The last one was War Boss Snaggor Greentooth, the Weird Claw. Weird being spelled W-Y-R-D. So, like Weird Boy.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to go with him.
I'm going to go with him too.
So,
like they'd be wearing like radioactive teeth glowing in the dark.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we've got the name for the mutant war boss leading the mutant orcs from their irradiated fleet. And our Q options in the names for this is Monster Boss Glowing Rock, Bad Bones Scar Boss, or Green Tooth Weird Claw, all sort of in this, mutant irradiated theming. But I can tell you the official Games Workshop canon name for their war boss is War Boss Osgog, the monster boss of Glowing Rock.
Is that the one is that the one I went for?
That is the one you went for, Dan.
Yes! Because glow in the dark orcs are a thing.
Yeah, glow in the dark orcs are a thing in the lore.
Right, plea to the listeners, if anyone can paint using glow in the dark paint, orcs, just saying, it would be amazing.
Hey,
I'd love to see it.
It's fair to say that Tusker became a very popular community project that's been converted by so many Orc players off about as much information from a supplement or a codex, however it was back in 4th edition, as Osgog, the monster boss. Yeah, Tusker Demon Killer. Yeah, he's seen the rounds done, in the converting community. So who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, we'll be seeing lots of Osgogs and these glowing rock orcs.
Oh, just glow in the dark orcs is just hilarious. I like the idea as well because like they're fungal. They're like when they spawn, they don't just make mushrooms. They make those glow in the dark ones.
Yeah,
phosphorus. That's brilliant. Oh, please make that happen, internet. Please.
We put things out in the world, Dan. We put it out there if we want it to happen.
Yep.
Question 10. The world of Mostor's Landing is discovered in the midst of anarchy as a Genestealer cult uprising is raging war against the local population. However, for whom do the local human population now fight for? Is it A, the greater good, B, the blood god Khorne, or C, their newly risen Necron overlords?
It's not that one. It's not that one. Well done for getting a Futurama quote in there, kind of. But no, it's not that one. It can't be. Oh, that's funny. Sorry, chaps. You go first because I've been first a lot.
So I think it is they are fighting for Lord Khorne. I think they've all gone a bit nuts.
I like how formal that is, Lord Khorne.
Yes.
Yep. Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows, so long as
Yep.
it is decanted appropriately.
Yes. Yep.
I'm gonna go for the greater good.
I'll go for B. I think Khorne as well. I think they'll all start losing.
Oh no! Hang on. Sorry, I've changed my mind because I'm using my logic again. It's the wrong part of the galaxy to be the greater good. So no, I'm going Khorne.
Everybody's going Khorne.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be pleased, Dan, to know that your galactic geography saved you at the last minute there again. And it is, yes, the blood god Khorne. Everyone was either a chaos worshipper or a Genestealer cultist on this particular planet.
Ooh. Doesn't sound good for an orc then.
No, it does not. But yeah, I was wondering, I was like, ooh, Dan was making points about Astronomicon shadow casting and directions of psychic light earlier to prove his logic, and then he totally forgot that we're in the western part of the galaxy and not the east, where the Tau typically are.
And then
to be.
I remembered.
You did catch yourself at the end there. Well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they got basically when one of the Imperial fleets reached this world, they found the whole place was in civil war, but none of it was actually in name of the Emperor anymore. So
what do you do? What do they do? They just stand around while go.
I can tell you exactly what they did because the next line.
What do they do?
The next line is: the world was simply marked for future exterminatus, and Imperial forces swiftly moved on.
Yes.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Move along.
It's like, oh, good. We don't need to bother stopping here. We can just move on to the next one, and we'll send someone to exterminatus that later when we get a chance. And then last question for round 2. The Imperial hive world of Shakar is discovered along with a strange Tyrannid structure not seen before in Imperial records. Close investigation proved impossible due to massive Tyrannid counterattacks. But what was this alien structure? Was it A, a crystalline tower formed of a substance previously only seen in trace amounts in rare Tyrannid bioweapons? B, a continent-sized cerebral nexus of unknown purposes? Or C, the planet itself was enfolded within a colossal biological membrane-like structure?
Have you just suggested one of those with a continent-sized brain?
Well, a suggestion of a continent covered in large brains.
Oh, I don't want to believe it's that one, but I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, we're going for brains, Tony.
I'm going to go for B.
Brains.
No, is it the tower?
The tower is A.
Oh, sorry. What was B? Sorry, it was B brains.
B is for brains.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Weirdest episode of Sesame Street we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And at the end of the episode, it's all for naught because everyone gets lobotomized.
One gin stealer.
So, Darren, are you going for A? You say, or the crystalline tower?
Yeah. Well, is that like where it's like you said unknown origin? Don't know what it's.
The crystalline tower is formed from a substance previously only seen in trace amounts in rare Tyranid bioweapons.
Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Well, I can tell you, Darren, that the trace substance crystal that is being referred to is the same material is found in the Swarm Lord's Bone Sabers, the extragalactic crystals, which are not found within the periodic table in the Milky Way galaxy. That is true. The answer of a crystalline tower, however, is not. The correct answer to this is, in fact, C. The entire planet itself is enfolded in a colossal biological membrane-like structure.
Ooh, that's weird.
It is weird. The Tyranids have literally wrapped this planet in sort of like a synth skin, and nobody knows why or how. However, auger probes have detected vast quantities of non-Tyranid life signs held in biostasis beneath the membrane. And this is originally...
Zotes! It's Zotes! It's going to be Zotes! It's definitely Zotes! Can't be anything other than Zotes!
to be non-Tyranid biology that's actually down there.
I don't know. Technically, they're non-Tyranid biology.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you, Dan. All I can tell you is that a planet wrapped in a Tyranid membrane is an actual thing in the lore.
Wow.
and as I say, Darren, the crystal that I was referring to is actually a thing that is in Tyranid lore, but they have not so far built an entire structure out of that mineral, whatever it is they get it from or wherever they get it from. But it is not of the Milky Way galaxy. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting point in this book. Just like what on earth are the Tyranids doing with this planet, because it's so out of character for anything they normally do, which is obviously not just strip the whole thing. Yeah, like no idea what they're doing with this and what those life forms are beneath the surface. I mean, presumably the implication is that it's all the Imperial citizens, or a lot of them, since it was a hive world they've done this to. But I know what you mean about Zotes, how they are sort of like, depending on what the latest retcon is with them and all that, they are/aren't Tyranid emissary creatures that aren't technically Tyranids and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see where Games Workshop goes of it.
Maybe I like it. Sorry, Tony, but maybe it's like a reverse ant farm. So it's the Tyranids like having sea monkeys, and it's like their own version of little sea monkeys, and they go ooh, and they look after them and they feed them, and then they get new ones when they die. Well, or the little Tyranid spaceship is really upset when they die, and then the Tyranid parent turns around and goes, "Well, what should we do?" And then goes to the human pet shop to buy a new one that looks exactly the same as the other ones, and then goes, "Look!" So the whole we've just discovered why the Tyranids are invading. It's purely to make sure that their Tyranid child is not upset because they had to flush the old planet down the toilet.
Domesticating the human race as children's appropriate pets.
Yes, exactly. I could write for Black Library.
You do that, Dan. You make some submissions.
I did.
Like the idea of the big membrane just
I wish you all the best of that.
I'll show you.
Moving on to our third and final round. Now, I will let you know that in this round, there is a section for the name game, which listeners of previous episodes will be familiar with, but we will get there shortly. Round 3 is called Grendulous Rising. Now, this is because after all the chaos and mayhem of these hive fleets turning up unannounced and just wrecking up Imperial space, all the Imperial reinforcements and Lord Solar Leontis had basically established a perimeter. You know, like, these planets will be our anchor worlds, and this is where we will fortify things before the Tyrannids get here, and then we will fend them off. This is where we'll make our stands. In particular, the world of Sanctum, which is actually a Space Marine chapter homeworld for the White Templars chapter, became the key anchor world. So where all of Imperial command, of the war zone, was being directed from. So that's where Trajan Valoris was leading the Custodes from. It's where Leontis had his command staff all set up, and the Space Marine collective, chapter masters and so on, were all leading the defense of the Segmenta Pacificus. And all this was planned and logistically organized around the idea that these two hive fleets were approaching from the west. Until word reaches Sanctum that turns out there is in fact a third hive tendril approaching. And this is Hive Tendril Grendulous. And it is not approaching directly from the west. It is in the Segmenta Pacificus, but it is approaching from below the galactic plane.
Insert your alien quotes here.
Yeah. And basically, its trajectory is going to be coming up more or less behind all the anchor worlds. So as a result of this, Leontis basically orders everyone to fall back to Sanctum. Just like all Imperial forces in all the anchor worlds, those that can, return to Sanctum now. We're making Sanctum the absolute linchpin and anvil where we're going to try and hold off all the hive fleets, and hive tendril Grendulous was coming for them. So that's a gimme. I'll give you all that information. That's just that's basically the halfway through twist of the storyline. It's there's not two tendrils, which was bad enough. There's actually three, and it's messed up all of the Imperium's plans. So, question 12, the start of round 3. In the Gallospire system, the Imperial Civil War, known as the War of Closed Eyes, was fought over what? A. The belief that the wider Imperium had abandoned them to their fate. B. The continued denial of the existence of Hive Tendril Grendulous at all. Or C. The possession and control of the few surviving Imperial navigators. So this was the Civil War known as the War of Closed Eyes.
Ooh, Tony.
So, closed eyes, as in suggesting that they were completely ignoring this hive fleet tendril. A little bit like, la, 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 you can't, we refuse to believe it's there, so I'm going to go for B. They refused to admit that it was coming.
So, Sharpe, you are picking up on the theme of these answers, the idea being all of them have a reference to closed eyes. So, yep. A, the belief that the wider Imperium is closing its eye to the plight of this system, and be we're just going to pretend they don't exist, leave them to their fate. B, the belief that there's a civil war over part of the Imperials on the world in the system, denying the existence of this third hive fleet at all, versus those who are saying, you're idiots, it's real, we need to deal with it. Or C, the control of the navigators, who famously have their closed third eye, and they are the key thing that's important for escaping the system, because it is doomed because this hive fleet is coming.
I mean, they're all really good.
Yeah, they are all really good.
I'm gonna go with navigators because third eye That's maybe I'm taking that too literal, but
It's okay. The Imperium's not. Is the Imperium known or not known for literal naming conventions, Dan? That is the question.
oh yeah, I mean yeah.
So I'm going to go for C as well. That was my first choice with the third eye. I was listening to a little lore video on them the other day, so it seemed quite fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I'm sticking with B.
And Dan, which one did you say you were settling on?
I was going with the navigators.
The Navigators. Go.
Yeah, literal third eye type thing.
Well, it was in fact B, the war over the continued denial of the existence of the High Fleet.
Come back, baby, come back!
So imperial, isn't it?
Yeah, they literally.
Not listening.
Yeah, la 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 la.
Members of the ecclesiarchy that were basically the ecclesiarchy's purview was that the High Fleet didn't exist and that they were that was ridiculous. The imperial dogma and command could not possibly have got this wrong and been outmaneuvered by the High Fleets, these beasts. So they just believed it wasn't real. They decreed it was heresy to suggest it was real.
Right. Did they still believe that when they were being nibbled on?
Some of them probably did, but probably most of them didn't. Most of them probably regretted.
My imagination.
Most of them probably regretted their life choices. Oh, there is actually a line in there about even when the Tyranids had appeared, some of the staunch believers still insisted it was a conspiracy where it was members of the radical groups that suggested the Tyranids were real. Had actually just collected menageries of exotic alien creatures and unleashed them.
it's just Dave. He's dressed up as a lictor. He's just got a couple of sheets and some spaghetti for a face. He's fine. It's not real. They scream it. He's fine. He's putting it on. It's ketchup for blood. It's fine.
It's almost very. What was it? Sort of like. British Society scientists first discovering the duck-billed platypus in Australia. They believed it was a hoax. Yep. They're like, this can't be real. So this whole idea that these biological creatures that have been set upon them were clearly just they're horrible alien monsters that these people have collected and unleashed on us, but they're not Tyranids. That's impossible to suggest.
That's hilarious.
So the War of Closed Eyes, because they refuse to acknowledge the existence of the Tyranids currently eating their eyes. However, at the actual siege of Sanctum itself, so question 13. The Dawn Wall was a strategic defense asset that protected the world of Sanctum from invasion in the void of space above the planet. But what was it? Was it A, a series of fortresses and gunnery stations built and grab-tethered into a vast asteroid field? B, a suborbital artificial planetary defense ring armed with gunnery stations and defense platforms? Or C, the shattered remains of one of Sanctum's moons, now orbiting the world and weaponized with gunnery stations and defense platforms?
That's not a moon.
I beat you.
Oh dear.
It's an oldie, but it's a goodie.
Yep.
It checks out.
Yeah.
So what we're saying here, Tony, is it's irrelevant because they all had gunnery platforms on them.
Functionally the same, but is it basically an asteroid, a weaponized asteroid field, a weaponized artificial ring, a bit like the one in the artwork around Mars? That sort of like man-made satellite ring. Or C, is it the remains of the moon that have now been weaponized?
I'm going to go asteroid belt.
Yeah, I'm going to go asteroids.
Yeah, I mean, that was my feeling, but in the interest of just keeping this interesting, I'm going to go with not the moon, but the one that was in the middle, which was the belt, wasn't it?
Yeah, the artificial defense ring, so sort of like a planetary ring, but it's all man-made.
Yep, I'm going to go with that one.
Well, that one is very cool, Sharpie, but I am afraid this is the classic Games Workshop weaponized asteroid field that appears in a lot of Warzone books in some shape or form.
Fair enough.
It's a drinking game.
The Dawn Wall. Now, given that this is a commonly used practice throughout the Imperium, question 14. Sanctum Command was under no illusions that the Dawn Wall would halt the Tyranid attack.
Oh dear.
Do they never learn? No. They don't learn. I blame Gilliman for this. I blame Gilliman for his promo video. Everyone saw the 10th edition promo video and thought, everything's fine. What a speech. Like, all in the 41st minute, they saw the promo video. He's like, what a great speech. It'll be fine. And that's why they're in trouble. It's because they saw the 10th edition promo video.
Well, so yeah, Commander under no illusions the Dawn Wall would halt the Tyranid attack. It was a purely delaying measure designed to inflict as much damage as possible before it was overrun. As such, it was largely operated by what? A. Pre-cogitated machine spirits. B. Penal troops, servitors, and volunteers looking for a martyr's death. Or C. Chapter serfs of the White Templars chapter and local PDF troops.
Ooh.
And for those who don't know, PDF is Planetary Defence Force, which is essentially sort of like not quite as trained Astra Militarum, but it's the forces that are governed by the Planetary Governor purely for the defence of that world, rather than being tied to the Imperial Guard.
Not to be confused with documents.
Yes. Other formats of military defences are available.
Yeah, other formats.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with the Martyr's Death ones.
That's B, isn't it? I think it's B. Yeah, I think they stuffed them all on the planetary defence and.
That would be penal troops, servitors, and volunteers looking for martyr's death.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Darren?
Well, my first thought was B, but keep it interesting. I'll go with C.
The chapter serfs. I can tell you that, again, this is a very popular Games Workshop trope. Fill it full of martyrs and criminals. It was indeed the penal troops, servitors, and volunteers looking for a martyr's death. Question 15. Once the Tyranids inevitably reached the surface of Sanctum, the defenders fell back to defensive positions and held out as long as they could before being overrun. You can see a theme to the Tyrannic War. The Olvenbach line fell in a day after which of the following occurred? Was it A, the Death Leaper inexplicably managed to infiltrate the sealed command bunker, slaughter everyone within, and leave again without breaching the seals? B, a single soldier was infected by a parasite of Mortrex and then toppled through an open bunker hatch before it was sealed shut?
Oh, that's grim!
Or C,
sorry, that's just horrible.
Or C, a trio of Neurotyrants caused the defenders to be driven mad by the paranoia and hysteria of the Shadow and the Warp, turning on each other and slaughtering themselves in a frenzied panic.
Oh, they're all quite grim.
They're all quite good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all good.
From my reaction alone, it's got to be Parasite of Mortrex, because there just isn't enough Parasite of Mortrex. Yeah.
So again, for anyone not familiar, this is the winged tyrannid who is known for basically infecting other beings with ripper eggs, which then gestate and burst out of them alien style. Bunches of rippers everywhere.
It's worse. It's not one. It's lots.
Yeah.
And they all eat their way
many.
out. It's really grim. It's really grim.
Pretty nasty. I think I'm going to go with A. And I think there's a new
Death
model
Leaper.
for Death Leaper, isn't there? So
There
I
is.
can imagine they snuck a story in for him somewhere. So I'm going to go with Death Leaper and his magical way of infiltrating without breaking the seals.
Yeah.
It's got strong Deathmaster Snitch vibes, doesn't it?
Yes,
From, the scale.
yeah.
Yeah, I think A was my first choice on that. I think going with logic of new model. And it does sound cool.
It's good
Like a cool
logic.
little stealthy.
So is that 2 picks for Death Leaper, 1 for the poor parasite victim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I can tell you that the correct canon answer in the lore is a single soldier being infected by a parasite of Vortex and then toppling into an open bunker hatch.
Nice
That's
one.
horrible.
There's a fun little line with this anecdote that says the last transmissions from the doomed bunker were described as naught but screams and chewing.
Oh.
It's a little there's some of your grimdark in your 40k lore.
Yeah, whoever said they were kidifying some of the lore, I mean, lobotomized people for just taking a telephone call and somebody falling in who's infected with parasites. It's just like grim.
Question 16. How did one colossal Tyrannid swarm hide its advance upon unsuspecting defenders? Was it A, a winged swarm masked its approach behind a high-altitude spore cloud released ahead of its advance? Is it B, a subterranean swarm went undetected as its presence was mistaken for collapsing tectonic faults? Or C, a swarm of amphibious and chameleonically adapted gene-stealer organisms approached defenders in the polar regions from beneath the frozen oceans?
Or D, they tiptoed. They're all, again, very good. They're all very logical. Or, you know what I mean. They're all very plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with A, I think. Flying. Maybe.
I'm going to go with C, Gene Stealers, because we haven't heard much for them lately.
I'll go with B then. Just because they're all plausible, let's one of us at least get the point.
Oh, is this becoming a players versus a DM scenario now?
Yeah.
Stuff you wrote.
Well, I can tell you that this is a point for Sharpe. It was in fact B, a subterranean swarm that large that its burrowing activity was just mistaken for earthquakes. They're just like,
oh, they look stupid now, don't they?
yeah, it did not go well for the defenders when all those Tyranids came bursting through their underground defences.
Oh dear.
And now, moving on to one of Dan's favourite parts of the quiz, we have the name game. So, a little different to previous versions of the name game, we're not going to be doing a point per correct answer. We're going to keep a miniature tally, and whoever gets the most correct answers in this mini round will then score 2 points. And if we have a clear second place, they'll score 1 point. So just again, for any listeners or viewers who this is their first Fun Facts episode, the name game is a similar micro version of these questions where I present a selection of names from the lore, and everybody has to guess whether or not it's true or false. Now, this could be names of characters or places, weapon types. We've had Space Marine chapters in the past was a theme. Well, tonight it is a series of names for different locations on the world of Sanctum. So tonight's name game is called Imperial Designation or Heavy Metal Album.
Oh my god, are these actual heavy metal albums as well?
Yep.
Please say they are.
Yes, they are.
Oh,
So
amazing.
we've got a number of names
I
here.
may have an advantage on this, not because I know the 40k lore.
Yes, I've got a bunch of names here, and they are either the name of some Imperial installation as part of the defense of Sanctum, some location on the world, or it is the name of a heavy metal album. Now, these are ones that I've pulled from like the metal bands wiki and stuff. So it's not going to be things like from Metallica or whatever. It's not going to be things that I assume you would know.
Bolt thrower, is it?
It's not bolt. It's not bolt thrower either. I think you might have guessed something like The Great Game, being an album from them. But no. So we're going to run through a couple. I'm going to keep a separate score to see who gets the most correct true or false answers to get the points for this question, as it were. So we'll start with, first up, we have Star Smiter.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
This is the best round ever. Oh my god.
That.
Oh my god.
See, my gut instinct tells me that's not a location, but then I've listened to this game numerous times, and now I'm severely doubting myself. I'm going to say that is a heavy metal album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with false on that one, I think. Yeah.
So everyone believes Star Smiter is a heavy metal album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you that this is true. This is the Star Smiter Orbital Defense Battery.
No way.
That's such No.
Yep. Remember, Sanctum is also a chapter homeworld for the White Templars, so this does mean there is a Space Marine Fortress Monastery there.
I know, but still.
So
It's grandiose, isn't it?
the Star Smiter Orbital Defense Battery.
Orbital defense. I mean, it's a little bit overboard.
But is it? It's 40k.
I mean, yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Oh
So-
my god.
Our second name is simply the Godslayer.
Oh.
Oh, that's got to be a heavy metal band album, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially if there's only one god and it's the God Emperor. I think.
Yeah, this is hard.
It
Tony.
is. It is.
I'm gonna say heavy metal band album.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with false on that one.
Right. Well, I'm going to go true because at some point someone's going to have to score some points. And if I just do the same as everybody else, we'll all just score the same. So I'm going to gamble, and I'm going to go and say that is a location.
The Godslayer is in fact a heavy metal album. It is by OTEP, an American heavy metal band formed in 2000 in Los Angeles, California.
I love how you have the fact.
Yeah.
I think that's very cool.
I need to make it seem legit. Like I need to sort of quantify the fact that I've cited these as actual albums released by
Yeah.
some bands somewhere in the real world. As it
Some
were.
band somewhere.
Oh.
Oh,
So-
that's amazing.
Our third name is Crux Harbour.
Ooh.
Ooh.
True.
Yeah, my gut instinct is that's true. That doesn't sound heavy metal enough for an album.
I'm gonna go false just to be contrary.
Ooh.
Well, Crux Harbour is true. It is one of the. It's basically the major. It's the major starport for Sanctum. Next, we have the Coral Tombs.
Yeah, that's tough.
I'm going to go heavy metal band again. I'm just going to keep going heavy metal band.
Yeah, I think that's a heavy metal album.
Yeah.
I'll go with true, because I'm thinking seismic activity, they have tombs. It's my logic.
No problem. Well, I can tell you that the Coral Tombs is in fact a heavy metal album.
Yay!
It is by a band called Ahab, a German funeral doom metal band founded in 2004.
That's not even a genre. Surely
You can hire them to play your funeral.
doom. Say that again.
Ahab, A-H-A-B.
No, the genre.
Oh,
The genre.
a German funeral doom metal.
I'm looking this up. Where's my phone?
I just like the idea that they only play at funerals. You can hire them if you want.
No, but it's got to be very doomy. Funeral doom. Carry on. I'm just intrigued by the genre.
Well, next up, our next name is Voth's Reach.
Oh, that's good.
I'm gonna go with true. It is a planet.
I also agree. I think that's a place name.
Because the G Dubs love a good reach.
Yeah.
Well, just to clarify, Dan, all these names that are true, they're all locations on Sanctum. So we're not looking for planet names. We're just looking for different locations.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying that GW love a good reach.
Yeah, they do.
The Sanctus Reach,
Black Reach.
Black Reach.
Black Reach. That lesser known planet Reach.
You're reaching now.
Reach for the stars. I won't say another one that's come to my mind.
You'll get around to it.
Yeah. Family show. Wow. Sorry, just looking up some more doom, funeral doom. There's quite a few.
There's more than one.
It's a whole genre. Apparently.
It's a whole genre. I found a site that's 30 best funeral doom or doom funeral metal bands. This podcast has turned into anarchy.
Well, so answers on Voth's Reach then. What are we saying, sorry?
I'm going to say fault.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna say
real. True.
Yeah, I'm going to say true.
I can tell you that Voth's Reach is true. It is the main equatorial forested region of Sanctum. And then next we have the Heights of Artaurus.
Oh, that's a metal band.
Oh, come on. Yeah, that's got to be metal.
Got to be a metal. That has got to be a metal album. This is the best one of these, Tony. By far, this is the best naming round we've ever done.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Darryn?
Yeah, I'm going to go metal.
Everyone's going metal on this one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that the Heights of Artaurus is the mountain range that the Fortress Monastery is built in. That is a legitimate in-law location on Sanctum in the Tyrannic War.
GW are in the wrong game. They're in the wrong game. They should be writing, instead of doing toy soldiers, they should be writing metal band album names.
So next up, we have the name simply Holdfast, all one word.
Ooh. I'm gonna go metal band again. Metal album.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be like a hardcore album, but I'll go with true on that one.
Yeah,
You're true.
I'm getting some wrong, so I'm gonna.
I think it's a metal album.
So just Darren.
Oh,
thinks it's,
I think it's true there.
just Darren thinks it's true. Okay.
Oh, no, what did I? Yeah. No, I think yes. I said it was a metal. Yeah, I think it's a metal album.
Okay. I can tell you that Holdfast is the name of the fortress monastery.
Oh, you're joking.
There it is,
That is
correct.
the laziest writing I've ever heard. We need to hold something and fast. Let's call it hold fast.
But Dan,
dear.
you say that you criticise the name of the fortress monastery, but you just praised them for the location of the fortress monastery.
Yeah, I feel like that was at the bottom
Heights
of
of
the name.
Artaria.
Yeah.
It's almost like they gave in trying to come up with a good name after they got the mountain range.
Yeah, they were like, we're done now.
We're done now.
Yeah, it's a long walk. It's a long
Hold fast.
walk.
Call it hold fast. Let's go for lunch.
Yeah,
Come on.
we're done with lunchtime now.
Yeah.
So at
By
this
the way, what you're listening to? Oh, I'm listening to some funeral doom metal.
Yeah.
Very inspirational.
well, you'll be interestingly at this point in the name game, all three of you have all got 3 points each in the name game. So all tied up at this point. So next we have Creed of Vengeance.
Metal.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
down. I'm going metal band,
I'm going metal.
metal album.
Well, you are all unified again in your answers. This is false. It is a metal album. You are correct in that sense. This is Creed of Vengeance by Smolder, an underground epic doom metal / power metal band based in Toronto, Canada.
Power metal, yes.
Epic doom metal.
Doom, not just doom, Tony. Not just doom metal. Epic doom metal.
Do they get to decide that they're an epic doom metal band, or does somebody else give them that view?
I'm drinking tea. I almost spat that across the screen.
It's an honorific decided by a council.
Right. I don't want to be a doom band. I want to be an epic doom band.
He decides.
Well, our next one, Dan. Our next name in the name game.
Oh, no.
All one word. Is this an Imperial designation or a heavy metal album? Date Elysium.
Oh, dearie me.
It's like
The Data Canyon.
They're gonna haunt me for the rest of my life.
How we love the Data Canyon.
You love the Data Canyons. I'm gonna go true.
I think it's a heavy metal album.
I think it's a planet. Or whatever it is that we're doing now. I can't.
What about you, Darren?
Can I hear it again, Tony?
All one word. Date Elysium.
Metal. Let's go metal on that one. I'm so unsure, but we'll go with metal.
So, Sharpe and Darren, you're both saying it's metal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell you that you are correct. It is a heavy metal album. It is by.
I'm slightly disappointed.
It is by the Zenith Passage, an American technical death metal band.
The what passage?
I think that's around the corner from the Reach.
To reiterate, Date Elysium is a heavy metal album by the band the Zenith Passage.
Oh, not Zenith Passage.
Zenith as in Zenithal, like Zenithal highlight.
Yeah, no, that's not a bit of laughing about.
I know. And Dan, they are an American technical death metal band from Los Angeles, California, founded in 2012.
I think you'll find that we're a technical metal band.
We're currently in the process of applying for our epic doctorate.
Yes. There's 3 more albums and we can qualify for epic status.
We're nearly there. We've just got a few more names to get through.
I'm just going to point out, I'm painting Marines at this point. I've ruined them.
Well, it sounds like they're all going to be noise Marines by now.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Our next name, Imperial designation or heavy metal band. All one word, Disporium.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What would Disporium be? A town? A harbour? Yeah, I'm not convinced that's a place. We've done a couple of heavy metal, haven't we? Right, now I'm true. I'm going to go with true.
I'll go with true.
I'm going with true.
Well, again, you're all united and you are all correct. Disporium it's essentially one of these like no details locations. It's just listed as in like the Tyranids overran X, Y, and Z locations. Disporium was one of them. But on the previous question, Dan, it is worth noting that when I found the metal album Date Elysium, I thought I have to include this for Dan.
Yeah, I thought you would. 'Cause...
And it sounds believable given our past history of actual locations.
It does sound believable.
Okay. Next up, we have Shades of Sorrow.
Oh, that's an album.
Ooh, it does sound. It's like an album, doesn't it? Like it's the slightly quieter third album. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of thought going into it.
Yeah. Ooh. More melancholic one. Let's call it Shades of Sorrow.
Is it their B-side? Is that's...
Yeah. Yeah. Oh dearie. I'm going to say it's true.
I'm going to say true. I imagine
I'm going album.
A very hilly, cliffy place.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell you that Shades of Sorrow is a heavy metal album by the band Crypta, a Brazilian death metal band formed in 2019. Now, at this point, we've got 3 names to go, and you've all tied it up again. All 3 of you have got 6 points in this mini round.
Ooh.
3 questions to go. 3 names to go, rather. The first of which is Oases of Fire.
Can you say that again?
So, it's the plural of oasis. So, Oases of Fire.
Well, surely that would be Oasis. Regardless. Sorry, I'm getting into the grammar of it now. Would you say Oasis is?
It's unless I've mispronounced it, but it's spelled O-A-S.
No. I'm sure. It's like with fish.
Oh, like Oases.
Fish.
Oasis. Okay, perhaps that's how it's pronounced. Oases of Fire.
Oases of Fire. Oh. The Comeback album.
No, that's a real place. I mean, in my fictional universe, that's a real place in my fictional universe.
It's a real fake place.
Yeah, it's a real fake place.
I would guess that it was a real place too.
Yeah, I'm going to go true on that one.
Well, you are all united, and you are all correct. The Oases of Fire are a location on Sanctum. Then our penultimate name is, all one word, Shroud Wall.
Ooh, interesting.
Could be easily either. I'm going to go with true on that one.
I think that is a heavy metal album.
Oh, I'm gonna go with heavy metal album as well.
Well, that means there's a split decision here, and the point goes to Darryn because Shroud Wall is a location on Sanctum.
Done.
And then our last name for the name game round, all one word. Is this Imperial designation or heavy metal album? Necromantium.
That's a
That's a metal album.
That's an album,
That's an
isn't it?
album.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know what? Just because they've gone for album, I'm going to go for true place in my fake fictional world.
So Sharpe and Darryn, you're saying that's an album?
Yeah, that's an album.
But can I just let it be known that I would have gone album, but I just want to
Be
split
contrite.
it up a bit more. Yeah.
Well, thankfully, Dan, that does mean that splits up the scoring neatly for us for this round because we have a first, second, and third place all by 1 point.
Nice.
And I can tell you that Necromantium is a heavy metal album, so there's a point to
of course
Darryn
it
and
is.
Sharpe. But it has special place on this list, and it had to be included because Necromantium is in fact a metal album by the band Carnifex.
Oh, cool.
An American deathcore band formed in 2005 from San Diego.
There you go.
I was like, there's no way I'm
Get
not...
their name from Warhammer lore.
Like I say, there's no way I'm not including an album by the band Carnifex in the Tyrannic War quiz. So, at the end of the name game round, that means that Darryn ends up winning it with 9 correct answers there, getting him 2 points in the actual scoreboard. Sharpe comes second with 8 points, earning him 1 point in the scoreboard, and unfortunately, Dan scores nothing because he wanted to be
That's
contrite.
all right. Yeah, exactly.
Now, that does mean that, first of all, this is one of our longest episodes now on YouTube, but we have 3 questions left to the end of the quiz. And as it stands, in first place, currently, we have Darryn with 9 points, followed closely by Daniel with 8 points, and only just behind that is Sharpe with 7. So it is really close. All 3 of you are still in it. So, these questions now, these last 3 questions sort of pertain to the actual assault on Holdfast, the actual fortress monastery, where obviously everything was accumulating to its conclusion of the siege, as it were. So, question 18. During the assault on Holdfast, which of the following was responsible for the destruction of the fortress monastery's Mountain Peak command center? Was it A, a Norn-emissary compacted its colossal bulk into the confines of a decommissioned turbolift and crawled up the abandoned shaft for hours before bursting into the command center?
No, Tony, that's too obviously not. No, I'm not having that.
Was it B, a swarm of Tyrannocyte pods, so basically the Tyranny drop pod, crashed into the peak and disgorged broods of rampaging carnifexes, causing a titanic avalanche to smash open the command sanctum and slaughter those inside? Or was it C, the White Templars lured the Swarm Lord to the evacuated command sanctum before detonating the plasmic denial charges in order to slay the leader beast and deny the Swarm its synaptic commander?
Ooh, I'm going to go C.
I think it was B.
I'm going to go C on that one as well, I think.
That's interesting. So 2 votes for luring the Swarm Lord and 1 for Carnifex is launched from space.
Yep.
But they were all.
It's going to
When
be
you
the
say it like that,
isn't
Tony,
it?
it sounds ridiculous.
Well, I can tell you the correct answer is A, a non-emissary
No!
compacted its
That's
colossal
not-
bulk.
They've just ripped off aliens. They've just ripped off aliens. They've literally just ripped off aliens. That
Well,
is it.
But
I get all that credit I gave to... No, sorry, Tony. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. They've just ripped off aliens. Next they'll have, a Space Marine go around in a yellow power lifter.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that the
No.
Parasite of Mortrex earlier was also a rip-off of aliens.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of leeway. And then there's just, that scene from Aliens? Oh, let's put that in.
But yeah, no, this was
there
the...
a little girl, was there a little girl that was running around at the same time?
Not
They mostly
quite.
come at night. Mostly. Do they most? Is it game over now? Game over. I mean, how many more quotes do I want to put in?
I mean,
Insane.
there wasn't a little girl, but there was in fact a lone unnamed chapter serf who was responsible for detonating the denial charges and destroying the peak and reducing it to a glassy crater in order to kill said non-emissary.
His name was Jones.
But did they nuke the site from orbit? It was the only way to be sure. I mean, how many more quotes do you want?
They nuked the site from the site. It was the only way
Yeah.
to be sure.
It was the only way to be sure. That's lazy.
But hey,
That's lazy.
to be fair to them, was the alien the size of an Imperial Knight, as the non-emissary is?
It's not the size of an Imperial Knight. It's the size of a
Almost.
Wraith Lord.
Yeah, it's almost.
No, it's the
getting
size of a Wraith Lord. Yeah, it's
there.
gutted.
Well, maybe you'll enjoy question 19 in that case then, Dan.
Okay.
So, at the height of the siege, while commanding the defence of Holdfast, Lord Solar Leontis is targeted by a Tyrannid assassination attempt. Which Tyrannid creature attempted to ambush and kill the Lord Solar atop the highest peak of the Fortress Monastery? Was it A, the Death Leaper, B, a Gene Stealer Broodlord, or C, a non-emissary?
I'm going to go for... See, my heart says Death Leap, and my head says they can't be bothered to write things properly, so it'll be a non-emissary.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with C. I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna give them more credit. I'm gonna say Death Leaper.
Right, I'll split the difference then, and I'll go with the Broodlord.
Well, in that case, then the point goes to Darryn, and Dan is very upset because it was indeed a non-emissary.
I don't even feel happy about that point.
No, I feel dirty.
There was, as part of the siege, they follow the story of like a trio of non-emissaries. One that climbs its way up the abandoned shaft to the command sanctum, one that attempts to assassinate Leontis, and one which leads a burrowing assault into the gene seed vaults of the monastery, and ends up being fought back by 12 company ancient dreadnoughts.
That's
Whoa,
cool.
that
is
cool.
kind of cool.
But
That is cool.
all 12 dreadnoughts get killed in the process because they've been discontinued from the product range.
Yeah. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of that happening in the books over the next few years, isn't there? Yeah. It's like an ensign on a way team.
Yeah.
All the scouts suddenly
First
died.
it was Yarrick, now it was the ancient dreadnoughts.
It's all the box dreads died in the noble defense of the gene seed.
Yeah.
But no, funnily enough, in the case of Leontis, he does survive, and only just, and only because of the intervention of Trajan Valoris and his
Of his
custodian
horse.
guard.
It was his horse. Trajan Valoris had nothing to do with it.
Well,
It was his horse.
I mean, you'll be pleased to know, Dan, that when he is commanding at Holdfast, his command staff form a trail of staff behind him that is half a mile long.
Do some of them have coconuts?
Possibly.
I was just wondering if his horse was leaving a trail.
So all the staffers are just picking up behind him.
Little bolts.
Well, and that sort of more or less is the height of the sort of conclusion of the story in the book. It basically leaves the siege of Holdfast in the balance. And, the planet is simultaneously under, fighting back and fighting for its life against the Tyranids, but also the Tyranids are just not quite overwhelming them, and are being slowly fought back. However, we do have one last question, which pertains to, as a lot of these books do, a sort of significant, tantalizing last little tidbit. So, as we know from previous books, how Metallica was actually infected by the worm plague, how Be'lakor did in fact actually steal away the House Raven homeworld, and so on. There's usually some interesting things that are sort of revealed in the closing parts of these books. So for question 20, in the Stanghald system, a never-before-seen Tyranid biovessel is encountered and is seen heading towards the Formidar system and Sanctum itself. What was the most concerning quality of the unidentified biovessel? Was it A, it was larger than any Tyranid creature in Imperial records and colossal enough to be mistaken for a small moon? B, it has been witnessed appearing in the Stanghald system via what was clearly a form of warp translation? Or C, it was bearing clear signs of chaos corruption, malefic mutations, and dark biomechanical augmentations?
Ooh.
I like the last one, and I don't think it's the last one, but the last one kind of has been done. Have you ever read Storm of Iron, Tony?
I am not going to answer that at this time.
Okay, so it's not the last one then.
No comment.
No comment. It's not the last one then.
Right.
I'll explain that after the question. It is cool, that bit though. I'm going to go A, which is really dull, but I think it's A.
I think it is B.
Warp translating Tyranids.
Yep.
Can you say what was A again? Sorry, Tony.
So A was a Tyranid biovessel larger than any Tyranid creature in Imperial records, colossal enough to be mistaken for a small moon.
I'm going to go A on that one, I think, then.
So we've gone one for each. Was that? Or did you? Oh no, you said A as well, didn't you, Dan? You were saying it was the big ship. Well, I can tell you that it is indeed A. It is a Tyranid biovessel so large it is mistaken for a moon by ship augurs.
Wow.
And they can actually legitimately say that's no moon.
Pretty much. The origin and purpose of the Titanic biovessel remains unknown. But if you give me 1 second, I'm going to get you the little extract and I'm going to read it because it is interesting. So this is actually taken from one of the little story excerpts. So it is a sort of little 2-page spread that's like a Black Library snippet, like an in-universe bit of information. And basically this is it's a ship. It's on a Raven Guard ship, and it's like the captain of the ship who's been called to the bridge to be like, "Sir, you have to see this for yourself." Sort of moment. Report, ordered Gairion. By way of reply, Erevan brought up a vid feed. The image was grainy, a deep void capture depicted from the acid-scorched prow of the pinion blade. Gairion's post-human cerebrum swiftly accounted for static warping and image degradation. He identified Stranghold's distant star, several of its worlds, long overrun by rapturous Xenos, and the dark clouds against the starfield that was the nearest enemy fleet swarms. He became very still as he registered something else just off the centre of the image. Something that at first his mind had insisted on categorising as a visual artefact or feed error. It was surely too large to be a Tyranid biovessel, by an almost absurd degree. Yet there was no moon in that region of the void. Gerion's eidetic memory assured him of that. He gazed at the colossal shape, and as he did so he began to discern details and hints of squirming biological motion that disturbed him on a primeval level. "That is not natural to this system," he said. "It is not, Shadow Captain," replied Urvine, almost managing to keep the tremor from his voice. "Nor is it anything even our most advanced augurs can make sense of. The machine spirits are driven close to madness by the mere sight of it. That it is Tyranid in nature is beyond doubt, my lord, but the sheer scale of the thing..." "Its heading?" asked Gerion, already knowing the answer in his heart. "Formidar system, lord," said Urvain. "Sanctum. The precogitators are certain." The Shadow Captain nodded to himself, then spoke. "Wake the navigator and make haste for the Mandeville point, shipmaster," he ordered. "We will risk warp translation. They must be warned." So yeah, it's meant to be pretty damn huge.
Big bug.
Probably with a big brain.
It's a bug planet.
And that is our fun facts from Tyrannic War.
That was fun. All the facts.
It was very fun. And with that, the scores and the doors at the end. We do have Sharpe with 7 points, Dan with 9, and Darryn tonight with 11 points in the quiz.
Well done.
That was fun.
It was fun. And as always,
Yeah.
I absolutely love making these things and coming up with these answers. And the fact that all the questions are taken from the in-law information and events in these books, I think it's just a great source of fun for doing these.
I think the round should be in all pub quizzes from now on. Heavy metal band album or Imperium designation. That is brilliant. That's my favourite.
Yeah,
So
that was
far.
great.
That was fun doing the
Oh,
research
dear.
for definite. So yeah,
Imagine.
that's our fun facts episode. It's our first one on YouTube. There are others available on podcasting platforms in our back catalogue. I do plan in the future to release some of the other fun facts quizzes on YouTube as like a classics episode, so that people can enjoy them there as well. And I just want to say a big thank you again to Daniel, Jonathan, and Darryn for coming on and joining me on this mad ride that is the fun facts. And I hope people listening at home have enjoyed it as well and played along. And maybe comment below with some of your favourite correct answers and favourite incorrect answers.
Before we and also dingle the dongle, dingly dong. Subscribe, like, share, whatever. Do that.
All those things, yes. Dingle the dangly dong. Like, subscribe.
Exactly.
All these things are incredibly useful. We laugh about it, but it's true. Like it helps the algorithm. It helps other people find the show. It really helps other people find these fun, ridiculous things that we enjoy doing, and it helps people discover the show and everything else that we do on the channel, and hopefully helps them discover you guys as well. Who again, we mentioned at the top of the show where you can find all these guys on Instagram and other social medias and so on, and everything will be in the links and in the description below. Go check those out. We do also have a Patreon as well to help support the show, and is a big thank you to all our patrons that really do help contribute towards being able to get resources and go through the upkeep of maintaining the show and everything, so we can do this for you guys. I hope you listen. I was gonna say I hope you three have enjoyed tonight, and I've had a good laugh with you
awesome.
as always.
Yeah,
it's
it's
been
been
great.
as per usual.
I've loved it.
The fun facts are always my favourite.
They're definitely one of my favourite things to do with the show. I feel they're a little bit of a hallmark now of the Narrative Wargamer. I've not quite come across anyone else doing anything quite like this, and I just love doing it. It's so fun.
And Dan nearly dies of laughing every time.
Every
I mean,
time.
they are.
Yeah.
I need health insurance after these. Honestly, they're so funny. I'm gonna have a lie down now.
So yeah, that's it. Big thank you to everyone for listening and watching, and yeah, we do also have an affiliate link as well for Element Games. So if you do want to buy any of the new up and coming Tyranids to help you devour your own miniature Sanctum battlefields, then do use our affiliate link below. We'll get a little support from Element then for anything that they do sell, and it doesn't cost you anything. It just helps the show. So yeah, thanks guys. It's been wonderful, and yeah. I will definitely be doing this again in the future as soon as we have some new source material to work with. And I have mentioned before the show that I think we might try and make some plans to do like maybe a 2-part series of these to go over the Arcs of Omen stuff that's obviously come out over the last year, because there is some fun stuff in those as well. I just need to get around to pulling them apart and coming up with fun quiz questions for them. So yeah, I think that's everything for tonight, guys. Thank you very much for coming and joining me, and yeah.
Oh, thank you for having us, Tony.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Been great.
No problem. I will see you guys at some point on future episodes, and hopefully we will see the listeners again on the next one. So until then, guys, this has been the Narrative Wargamer Podcast, helping you discover more ways to play 40 games.